Hello and welcome back. And this is the last session of our Stronger Together conference today. And it's with absolute delight that I introduce Karen Lynch, Lee Mannion and Gabriela Matouskova. And they're going to do some really practical stuff with you and help you to navigate and prepare for all these opportunities that you've heard about today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to this final team of the day. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. The name of our session today is Growth, the practical stuff you need to know. My name's Lee Mannion. It's my pleasure to facilitate this conversation with two people who have grown two very different social enterprises in very different ways. What we're hoping to achieve is to identify some parallels between the two, and we're going to take those experiences and hopefully come out with some general guidelines that would be applicable to any kind of social enterprise looking to grow. So first, let me introduce them. Karen Lynch is the CEO of Expert Impact, for providing the mentoring matching service for social entrepreneurs. It's called the Human Lending Library because instead of borrowing a book to figure out a business challenge, you can borrow a human. There are more than 70 experts or mentors who can help with things like marketing, HR, investment, business development, or strategy, and the service is totally free. ISE, who we have to thank for inviting us here today, run the Birmingham branch of the Human Lending Library. However, Karen is very new in the job, just 2 months, and is better known for the decade she spent leading the social enterprise Baloo. When Karen joined Baloo, it was a bottled water business that gave profits to water aid to fund clean water and sanitation projects in developing countries. When she left Baloo last year, it was still a water business, but one that had diversified, getting rid of some of the bottles and offering filtration systems to business. For the sake of transparency, Karen is also my boss, as I also work at Expert Impact, so it's going to be good fun grilling the boss. Gabriela Matouskova took a business degree at Coventry University in 2015 and then went on to work for CUSE, or CUSE, which is the Social Enterprise Business Support Organisation at Coventry University. Whilst there, Gabriela had been volunteering some time with the Health and Wellbeing Social Enterprise Hope for the Community, and then at the beginning of 2020, she left CUSE to become Deputy CEO at H4C, which Hope for the Community is known as, becoming CEO in August last year. In a moment, I'm going to ask them both to tell the story of their businesses in 3 minutes or less. And by that, I mean what the business does, what sort of state the business was in when they joined, how the business grew, and where the business is now, or in Karen's case, where the business is where she left. We'll be examining if it was inevitable that their businesses had to grow, whether it was more organic or planned, why and how they grew. But most importantly, there will be 15 minutes or more at the end of the session for you to ask questions, which, as you probably know if you've been here all day, is now on the right-hand side of your screen in the Q&A function. If you don't have a question yourself, you can vote for the most interesting one, and we'll take the best of them in about 25 minutes at around 3 p.m. And a reminder that if you're tweeting about the conference today, the hashtag is hashtag SED2021. So, Karen, it is over to you to go first. Please tell us about Baloo. What sort of state was it in when you joined? What sort of growth happened while you were there? And how did you do it? And where did you leave it?
Thank you, Lee. Oh, wow, that was a good and very professional introduction. And hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So it seems like a lifetime ago now because it was a year ago, and it seems even longer ago that I accidentally ended up in the world of social enterprise because, to be completely frank, I didn't know that's what I was walking into when I first came across the Blue story. Having spent a decade there, I still think it, I mean, slightly biased, but it remains one of the most inspirational stories for a number of reasons, and that's why we wanted to talk about it today. So when I first took over Blue, it was an existing social enterprise, but it had £1.9 million worth of debt. Its revenue didn't come anywhere near its debt levels. And I was actually brought in to help try and sell the brand to recoup some of the debts. So it's a turnaround story. And so instead of having the closure, I came up with a business plan to reboot, restart, rebrand, relaunch that business to the one that is today. And as I say, I think it's inspirational because instead of having, you know, 2 million quid in the bank to startup capital, I had 1.9 million pounds worth of debt to pay back. And, you know, at that point, and I think everybody remembers Blue and sees Blue as the brand that works with WaterAid. It was always a great idea. It didn't work with WaterAid back in 2009, but it had a vision of trying to solve the world's water problems, starting with those whom struggle to get access to clean water, and also trying to tackle the environmental issues. And so in answer to Lee's first question, did Blue have to grow? Well, it had to do one of two things. It either had to write off you know, nearly £2 million and put it down to learning and bad luck maybe, and give up and go home. Or we could try and bring some value out of that money that had already been invested. And I guess that's the first thing I would want to say is when you have a problem, think about it as growing your way out of a problem. Problems are opportunities, and we'll come back to that later today. So Blue had to grow, and it had to have a plan to dig out of the hole. It was a plan which was based around purpose, values, collaboration, and it was a plan about being small. And from day one, we were focused on being a David and Goliath story. When I say we, you know, we were 2.5 people in those early days. And Blue grew over the next 8 years to become a business which was still tiny, 10 people in its entirety, which was the equivalent to 8 FTE. But those 10 people both set the environmental benchmark in the sector and got to the point of delivering £1 million of net profits that were handed over to WaterAid each year. Now, COVID, like everyone, has been a tough year, so that's a whole other different story, but lots of things we can talk about today about how Blue became successful.
Very good. That was with 30 seconds to spare, so nice one, Karen. Well done. Gabriela, it's time for you to tell us about Hope for the Community. Again, what sort of state it was in when you joined it. You were volunteering a bit beforehand, I think, before you joined the business. What changes you've made since you've been there and where the business is at today. So yes, over to you.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you both for and ISC for having me today. So I'm a CEO of social enterprise based in Coventry, but we operate nationwide, and our main mission is to empower people to manage their mental health and well-being. Now, what shape was the business in? When I joined, as Lee said, I originally volunteered as a sort of business support advisor to the business because it was founded by 4 volunteers from the community and a university professor. When I joined them initially, I saw great potential, but also realized many pitfalls to the fact that the intellectual property to the programs they were going to run were still with the university, and embarked on a 22-month-long journey of negotiating this with the university successfully at the end. H4C was really more of a lifestyle business. It had few contracts. It didn't have any staff. It was run by some wonderful volunteers, but obviously as the market was changing and different things, it was sort of losing its traction. I joined in as Lisa in January 2020, and I call it a re-startup. I sort of inherited the social enterprise and went through a re-startup phase. Now, of course, joining an organization that delivers well-being courses face-to-face in January 2020, nobody could have prepared us where we were in, where we turned into March. But one of the opportunities to grow was through a digital platform that the social enterprise already had, and that was where all of my work was focused in. So where we are, did it have to grow? I suppose potentially, maybe not, but I guess we wouldn't have had a bit had I not made the leap, and you know, that was all thanks to Karen's one sentence when I had a 45-minute with her, telling her how amazing this work could be, and she said, "What's stopping you now?" And I handed in my notice a week later. So really exciting times we've had since we started. We've now got 3 staff, which I'm really proud of. We're a living wage employer. I thought we're not going to have a business we've managed to overcome that and actually made a surplus at the end of the year. I can say the more detail about it, but obviously mental health and well-being is at the forefront at the moment. And I'm really pleased because since March last year, we've supported over 2,000 people with positive outcomes. And for me, that leap is absolutely, social enterprise is a place I always knew I wanted to be.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gabriela. So I want to ask you both, I mean, you came into these organizations, and Karen, we'll start with you. I mean, you know, you said you were brought in to sell it really, and it had this enormous debt. So where did you see potential for growth, first of all?
Where did I see? I didn't at first, actually. I saw exactly what you would see when you're faced with chaos, something that isn't working. You see the problem. And I think that's the starting point, is you have to unpick the problem and you have to bring all of the learning out of what's going wrong to then understand what the opportunity is. Is it still a relevant opportunity? Is it still a live opportunity? I mean, no one wants to be flogging a dead horse. You know, can you breathe life back into it, or is it going to be rotting beneath you as you do it? And I think that's a very important part of the process. And then, as I said, the mindset for me was looking at everything that had been invested in it. What was the why behind it, right? So I see this a lot in working with social enterprises. There is always great drive, great emotional need to start these things, and so much stronger often than the business experience or business model that's going to make it work. And I guess Baloo at that time was very much kind of classic social entrepreneur led. It wasn't like it was real money, but it was a very real mission. You know, they were seeking funders and support, and they did a very good job of it. But there was all the focus was on getting the money and delivering the mission, not on how do we invest that money and how do we pay that back. And I'd come from a traditional business background. You know, my career was in media, running magazines, and in Barclays, creating banking products. So I was new to the space, and you know, thinking, well, so if I was an investor, how would I look at this? What does the business plan need to be? And the more I looked at it, the more I could see what the opportunity was. And I guess the way that I can describe the shift there was that the business itself was becoming, I guess, a problem in the market. It was being an aggravator. It was correctly saying that the bottled water market was wrong and the drinks market was wrong, but it wasn't presenting a viable and sustainable solution to the marketplace. It was just making everybody feel bad. And I think this comes right back to the heart of sales and commercialism, is whatever it is you're trying to sell, whatever it is you want people to buy into, you want them to come closer to you, right? If you tell somebody what they're doing currently is bad, the instinct is to immediately step away. If you can, you know, you want to be like a magnet for all things good and positive. You want to create what I would call nodding. You know, in a meeting, everybody's nodding. You know, and everybody's agreeing. So that kind of nodding dog in the back of the car thing is, you know, you need to get people mentally on board, you know, and from the heart on board, and then together you can make amazing thing happen. So I wasn't going to be able to figure my way out of a hole if I was fighting everybody. We were too small to win a war on all fronts. My job at Baloo was to figure out what role does the supply chain play within this? How could they help me create a product that was environmentally better? What role do wholesalers play in this? Where have they got a gap in their portfolio? How could this be better for them than selling a product from Schweppes or from Nestle? And actually, how can I be different from customers? What is it that doesn't work for them in the water sector? What do they need? And then you realize you're in the middle of something. You know, you're not here trying to force it down somebody's throat. You genuinely need to put yourself in the heart of the sector and also in the heart of your supply chain and figure out what's going to work from all fronts. And we all too often are kind of linear thinking, because that's the way we keep things simple in busy lives. And it's absolutely not. We have to look top down to actually see how this might work and to shape the model.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, there's lots to pick apart there, really. But I mean, for me, problems or opportunities was the first one. You know, thinking of the investors and how they might see the social enterprise as being attractive. I guess even if you're not looking for investment, that's something to think about, isn't it? Think about, you know, what reasons are your business attractive? And also like the way you sort of suggested, I think that you were sort of turning around something negative to become something positive and therefore more attractive, not just pointing out the problems with the market, but just saying, here's some solutions and here's how we can be better, and then selling that. Would that be a fair assessment of what you were saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what I'm also articulating, that if I was summarizing it, is this is how you build a brand. You know, you're creating that brand pull, because when you create a brand and brand pull, and people are naturally looking towards you, naturally listening, naturally interested, and feel good and maybe want to be a part of it, then the need to sell disappears, and actually you go straight into negotiation, you know, because the assumption is it's the right thing to do. But actually, for me, the secret to Blue's success has been, you then take that positivity and you build it into collaborations and partnerships at every level of the business model. You know, you don't want to be in buyer-seller relationships, because then it goes and then you go and pitch again the next time. You don't want to be maximizing every last pound of margin you can pull back by being really mean to your supply chain, because they'll come and take that back when they can, or when you really need them, they're not going to be there to help you. So it was absolutely applying a values-based approach at every level of the business to reinvent what, in effect, you know, at that point, you know, water was a real commodity, you know, and is a bad thing and remains a bad thing. And actually the idea of launching against yourselves by saying to customers, we'll give you the best product in the market from an environmental perspective, guaranteed. And when you're ready, when you can give up that revenue, because it's very high margin for retail and for restaurants, actually look at our filtration offering, actually going with them on a journey over a decade and into this next decade now, and having that long-term thinking about what's right for the sector, not just what would work for us today.
Thanks very much, Karen. Gabriela, we're going to come to you next. We're going to pick up that point you said about meeting Karen and her asking you what's stopping you now. Kirsty, you've mentioned that in the chat. Thank you for that. We will get to that. And just as a hint, it does include something about the Human Lending Library. But when you got involved with Hope for the Community, I mean, you were volunteering before. So I'm assuming that you saw opportunity and you saw, you know, how the business could improve. So, I mean, can you speak a little bit about that? And, you know, how much were you sort of, you know, all guns blazing, I want to change this, this, and this before you went in?
Well, absolutely. So I got to meet the people who founded the organization, the social enterprise. I got to found the people who, you know, meet the people who went on the courses. And, you know, these people were telling me how it changed their lives. And, you know, part of me was just thinking, well, this is an absolute, you know, everyone should do this. You know, you go to that point, it's like everyone needs a bit of hope in their life. And how can we make it happen? And at that moment, it was quite sort of focused in a certain area, you know, work with one group of people. It was mainly focusing parents of autistic children. It had some great partnerships already with Macmillan Cancer Support and, you know, some national players, but it wasn't sort of thinking about how can we do more of this, and how can we do more of this in a sustainable way. And you know, having worked in parts and met loads of social entrepreneurs and heard so many times, you know, business is your key thing, then you can do impact. I really felt that, you know, I wanted someone to do it, and desperately was trying to find someone to do it. But then, you know, someone dropped out of the Human Library session in Birmingham, and I got sort of slotted in just as I came back from a holiday, I believe. And, you know, Karen said that sentence, and in a way, I wasn't a social entrepreneur. I felt slightly like an imposter. You know, it wasn't my idea. It was, I just thought, this is great and this could do so much. And Karen straight went into her solution. She's like, it could do this, it could do this, it could do that. And you know, that reassurance just sort of inspired me so much that I just thought, do you know what? I will quit my job and give this a go. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll just find a job somewhere else. You know, I'll make sure it works. So for me, it was really that sort of someone just giving you that nudge and that sort of encouragement, but also the fact that, you know, Karen, an experienced social entrepreneur, and in this work, she saw there was a potential for the market. And I think that was where I was coming in. I was not coming in to fix anything. I was coming to enhance what it already built on. You know, the trade, the income was 95% from trade. You know, it already started. When we talked about today, lots of people talking about, you know, sustainable model and a strong business model, you know, starting from 95% of licensing the program to other organizations is a great point to start with. So in a way, I feel very privileged to taking this on, but also slightly scared about how do we do it. And I think what last year has shown me is that you know, Karen also mentioned, you know, make sure you're the boss. I mean, there were no staff, so, you know, in a way, is how do you do that? But I sort of, you know, took ownership of things and thinking in the bigger picture. And I think for me, I was quite good before at connecting, you know, pieces of things we could do, but also then became quite overwhelmed. And that's, again, coming back to people like Karen or people that have been introduced to me through Karen or coaches or consultants was really useful, because they focused my thinking, you know, with the simple things is, what can you do now? You can only do one thing at a time. And we were just, you know, opportunistic in a market where everything, we could have had no business. I was, you know, literally feeling so lucky. We stepped in. I think, you know, Ben mentioned it before, we stepped up for a lot of those charities and organizations who were in furlough mode, who would not support, and this support was needed, and we took that opportunity. And for me, the opportunity has to be focused. And I've learned that, because I go on and waffle to people and they tell me, you want to do this? I was like, yes, that's exactly what I want to do. And I think this element is about it, is that, you know, you do need to draw on your networks, you need to draw on your partnerships. And that element Karen highlighted, that listening, that's what I've been doing a lot last year. I've been listening to the partners we worked with for a long time. I've listened to the new ones. And in my head, I was thinking, oh, we could be doing this, but in a long term, you know, how could we change that? Where is our market opportunity in this? Because I thought we had one thing and one product, but actually we had a lot more to offer. And it's just quite amazing when it does unravel in front of you, but you've got to have that sort of creativity and the partnerships and the ideas that people bring together.
I'm going to be very short on time. This is going to fly by this session. So I just want to be really explicit about the sort of growth that you've seen, Gabriela. I'm actually going to come back to you first, because I mean, some people will be looking at that, and I think you mentioned, you know, the income was 95% from trade, which sounds amazing. I think a lot of social enterprises would really take that. So where was there room for you to grow, and how have you grown?
So what we've done is we've managed to develop further products from the core offer that we have. So we've tailored our program to different conditions. So we were able to specialize, because the market for mental health and well-being offer, you know, personalized care is a large element. So we were able to develop new products. Now, I would say we have gone down so we're about 75% at trade at the moment. But the reason was because I took the opportunity to do some research and development work, so get some grant funding for those sort of pilot tests of different products. So we've launched new products. We have identified new partners. So, you know, within mainly public sector, but again, you know, those who we are building long-term relationships and partnership with. We were upselling to our existing you know, partners that we've had, because all of a sudden our offer changed from face-to-face to digital, and there was a lot more to offer, including staff at NHS trusts and staff at social care. So it was that sort of diversification of the product, diversification of the market. And also when we built our digital platform, when we started doing that, I was thinking, you know, I'm quite an advocate for, you know, how many apps are there nobody's using, because they're sort of one-trick ponies. Is when we started building the digital platform, I was making sure that it was a white label platform so other organizations can use it. So now we've got a strand in the business where other organizations don't have to spend hundreds of £1,000s on infrastructure of digital, but could host their programs with us. For me, that retains that sort of community of technology development. So it's future-proofing the digital journey. And I think it's those sort of longer-term things that if you can just stop thinking about your linear product and your linear market, I think there's so many opportunities out there, but do weigh them out and do make sure that it is the right time for you to do it at that point in time.
Okay, fab. Thank you very much, Gabrielle. I promise, thanks for your questions. We've got some really great questions. We'll get to those in a moment. We will definitely talk about network and where you can go to for help. But I just want to ask Karen to, in a nutshell, tell us, you know, what were, let's say, 3 ways that Baloo, how did you turn it around? You know, you were nearly £2 million in debt. What were the 3 ways that you got it to the point where you were able to give, you know, millions of pounds to WaterAid?
Okay, so I think the key thing is getting all of your opportunities down on paper, right? The problem for a lot of entrepreneurs is there's always another idea and another opportunity, and the old ones can become boring. And sometimes the old ones, or the things you've tried, may have been before their time. it's about being really disciplined and looking at everything you could do and being clear which are the high impact ones and which are the low effort or the high impact. And I don't know whether I did this with Gabriela, but look up Ansof's, I did I? Is actually figure out what are the right horses to back in this race to success. And so being clear and focusing, making choices, right? The key role of an entrepreneur, the lead of this business, is your team, and you have got to trust yourself to make the right choices. And you need to do that with a combination of data and instinct, right? You can't use data like a drunk uses a lamppost, but you can't just be hard. You've got to use both of those things. So ordering your opportunities, being clear on which are the right ones and why, and then not trying to do too many things. So for Blue, we decided actively that the HoReCa sector, so hotels, restaurants, catering, would be our space. Now, if we'd followed the data on the market, we'd have done the 500 ml plastic bottles and we've gone into supermarkets. That's where the volume is. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs who go, this is the biggest chunk of the market, that's where I'm going. If you're small, you want to own a niche and you want to grow out from that niche. And so that's what we did. And secondly is do what you're good at. And if you need something that you're not good at, or you've got a problem you need fixing, don't just buy someone. So if you need a data analyst, don't just go buy a data analyst. Actually buy somebody or somebody's time to help you understand what is your data problem, because then you can spend a lot less money buying the right solution. And one of our values at Blue was always about invest, not spend. People spend too much money and don't get the right return on it because they're doing their best, but often making the wrong decisions. And I think on that note as well, having a culture where you believe your best ideas, your best innovations come when you don't have any money, is a really good one. We launched Blue, as I said, with debt, and I spent £15,000 developing the brand, the new brand, the creative approach, the partnership with WaterAid, the website. It was absolutely on a shoestring, but it was about going back and centering around what was right. So clarity around purpose and values, finding a niche, prioritizing the opportunities, and then working through them and growing organically from that point on.
Thanks, Karen. I can see in the chat that all this advice is being very well received. Questions at 3 o'clock. I just want to use the last 2 minutes. I mean, Gabriela's already mentioned it. You might need some help along the way. So where do you go for help? Is it your network? Are there organisations that you would both recommend? Obviously, I might be fishing a little bit with this question. But yes, to be explicit, Gabriela met Karen through the Human Lending Library. But I mean, there are lots of places you can go to for support. So let's start with you, Gabriela. I mean, who have you, apart from the Human Lending Library, who have you used? Who have you gone to for support? Were they people within your network? Were they people that you met from, COOs at Coventry University? Have you gone to other leaders? How have you found them and how have you reached out to them?
Well, I think, I mean, given that it was linked back to the university, it was a group of academics that I go to in relation to the research and trying to build up the evidence base of the product. I think it's really important that you focus who you speak to and what you want from them, because I've been caught in when I go and meet people and then I really don't know what is it that I'm asking for. So I would sort of suggest that, people do think about this properly. But yeah, so with academics, for the research, because in mental health space, you do need that evidence base. So, link up with your local university. Obviously the Human Lending Library, you never know who you're going to meet, and Karen's and my journey are quite examples, but it was really, we sort of kept connecting on, at time and Karen would introduce me to other people. So I think there's that opportunistic. I also probably in your sector, so we became members of Association of Mental Health Providers to an enterprise development program. Through this, I have identified that one of the things I really needed help with was around finance, and I really wanted to be comfortable with the numbers. So I had a finance mentor to work with me and really work with me to make sure that, I feel confident in the numbers, in presenting the numbers and reviewing the numbers for the business. And I've also got a coach now that through the business, growth coach that works with me, that sort of keeps me level when I get to points to being overwhelmed, because really it can be a very lonely journey. And I really struggled with networking last year in this sort of, whilst it opened a lot of space, there wasn't much time for networking in the sense as it would be if you went to an event. So last year felt quite lonely, but I think, don't be this sector, social enterprise sector, you wouldn't find a friendlier bunch of people. So I would say, just, reach out. What's the worst that can happen? People just say no. So, yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Actually, the lonely aspect came up in the Q&As that we've got, and asking about accessing support. Just want to quickly ask you about your coach. How did you find your coach, and how often do you use your coach, and do you pay for your coach?
For my coach, we meet once a month. He is on call. She supported me sort of informally through last year, and then I decided that it was for formalizing, because there were times where everything I felt was falling apart. I was falling apart last year, but so I found her through the previous EU social enterprise where I worked. We worked on certain things together, and she just keeps me on my toes. And I think everybody needs to find that connection and need to find what they want from that coach. So I would suggest you just don't go out there, but you've got to it's like speed dating, isn't it? It is a relationship, so find someone that's there. But that's for this period of time. I still work with consultants, because whilst we all think that we can do it all, spend the money, invest the money, experts that can help you with other elements of the...
Great, thanks, Gabriela. Karen, be interesting to know, who you went to for advice back in those early days, whether you still use mentors now, who you go to use as a sounding board. How do you do all that?
Thanks, Lee. Well, I would say over the last 11, 12 years now, I've been a participant and probably taught on most of the things. Do everything from Deloitte Pioneers, PwC Social Enterprise Club, work with Sarah, ISE, right up to the 10,000 Small Businesses Programme, and now teach at SAID at the business school, obviously at Expert Impact. And I think that kind of, Social Enterprise UK, obviously been part of that. I think the point there is, I don't think you'll find any other sector where there is so much infrastructure for help and support, either directly in sector or related to it. And I think the responsibility, though, has to sit with you, the individual, to be really clear about the right support at the right time. We can all get carried away with that, something that sounds good, fill in the form, and you wouldn't do that, right? If you're fitting a new kitchen, you would or buying a new car, you would do your research properly, and you'd come up with a plan. If you were renovating a house, you'd go, right, well, we need to do the foundations and the damp proofing first, then we'll get the decorator in. And I think we experienced that, at Expert Impact. Some people apply and they're not ready. It's about people at point of scale. And at the same time, I remember being at the Deloitte Pioneers Programme, where they always wanted the founder or the CEO in the room, and actually we were too far advanced at that point. I'm going, there's no point me sitting in here in this session about operations. I've got head of operations now. He needs to be in here. So I think do your map of everything that's available to you, but be really clear what, where, and how. I loved what Gabriela said about buying specialist support. Things like buying a small amount, outsourcing your accountancy and having it done properly and getting onto zero, for example, as soon as it makes sense to do so. So as soon as you've got a decent amount of trading revenue, is way better than trying to do it yourself and then your poor accountant at year end spending ages on picking it and getting it wrong. So I think, start with the basics, though. If you're not a member of Social Enterprise UK, join up now. If you're small, it's free, and it will, the resources, the help, the tools, and that sense of community is there. If you're not a member of whatever your local body is, your local support group, make sure you're there. You'll find that these guys, they invest a lot of effort, and nobody's getting rich from supporting this sector, but in sharing with you, information or ideas, or bringing opportunities to your local area, in the way that Sarah put her hand up and said, yes, we'll bring Expert Impact Human Lending Library to Birmingham, so that we've got good access here. So there's the bit about as well of you investing in. So unless you come together as a community, then these things won't work. And also, depending on where you are in the journey, I bet you, and what your skills are, I bet everybody in the room can help someone else. And I have this motto, which is, everyone can help someone, therefore everyone should, because otherwise, how on earth do we think it's okay for us to ask for help? That line between paying and free, I'm of the school that, free isn't always good. In fact, it can often be anything but. A bit of contribution from you is good because it shares the responsibility. You've made an investment. You're going to take effort to get some return on that. And sorry, I've gone through loads of those things, but only spend the right amount of time at any one time getting help that's appropriate, because you can't change everything all at the same time. So we would have a period at Blue where we'd really focus on growth, and we'd take years out. And my budget would then say, right, we're not going after more revenue next year. We're just going to flatline because we need to get operationally fit. Because if your standards start dropping, then all of this effort you've put into growth will just end up being pain when one of your competitors comes in and takes your contract because the client wasn't really happy. If the customers you've got and the contracts you've currently got aren't delighted, then actually your business isn't sustainable.
Just very quickly, because I want to get to a couple of the questions, just in a nutshell. When you talk about sort of thinking about who you know and going to, what kind of approach do you make, and what kind of approaches do you like? I mean, is it enough for somebody just to contact you on LinkedIn and tell you why they want to contact you?
I think we're all different, right? So I'm addicted to helping other people solve their problems. My daily, weekly dinner conversations with my husband are, Karen, you need to do something less, right? I'm happy when I'm busy, We're not all the same. You have to have a bit of a thick skin sometimes. I've spent this week writing to some of our experts at Expert Impact. I want their input on our business model, because, we ourselves have, we've got grant funding from one source. That's not sustainable. We need to think differently about what we do. And you get very different replies from them. And some of them, naming no names, were a little bit brusque. And so what do? Do you go, oh, I wish I hadn't bothered? No, you don't. You go back and you say, I'm really sorry, understanding that you're busy. If my email was there too, you go back again. 80% of success in our sector is about heart and resilience and managing to stay self-motivated, because, if you care enough, and as long as you stop to think enough, you will identify what you're not good at. And in the same way Gabriela said she got a financial coach, you can either be coached to improve in specific areas, or you bring somebody in on your team, or you outsource it. But resilience, hard work, combined with that mission you've got in the first place. But actually, I'm going to say one more thing. At some point in your journey, be really honest with yourself. And this is where I think a coach is good, to figure out what are you not good at and you're not likely to be good at, because from day one, or from that day on, you can be clear where you need to complement your skill set. And then I think the last thing I'm going to say is don't confuse coaching with mentoring, with training and specialist learning. They're all very, very different. So when you're doing that planning, and I guess for that point, going right back to where we started with when I met Gabriela, we only met for, officially it's an hour, and the Expert Impact sessions have no obligation either way. Alex on the team does all of the work matching the mentee, the mentor, but all we're committing to is an hour. That hour is about a lightning bolt moment. It's about helping you find the thing, it might not be what you've gone in with in terms of your prep, but finding that one thing that is going to unlock the potential in you and in your business. That one thing might be opening a door for you. I mean, all sorts of things have happened in Expert Impact. I mean, from Harry Specter's ended up with their mentor on their board, the brilliant David Taylor, brand guru. Gabriela and I have stayed in touch. It's not a formal relationship, but we kind of care about each other's role in this journey. So Sorry, I've rattled on a lot there, and I am sorry, but I can't say enough how important it is for you to take responsibility to think about this and not just expect it to be easy, because if you do, then you don't deserve to be invested in by others who can help you. Okay.
Fab. Thanks, Karen. We've had a couple of questions from Kirsty, so I feel that we should get to them. Kirsty, I just want to say, and for anybody else, because I think we probably will run out of time, I'm going to put my email address in a minute. If anybody has any further questions after this, please field them on to me, and I will do my best to either answer them or pass them on to Karen and Gabriela. But to both of you, as women leading social enterprises, what advice would you give to other women starting out in the sector? Which of you would like to take that first?
I'll be very quick. Feel at home. We dominate this sector. We are brilliant multitaskers. You know, it's evidenced. I'm not just being biased there. But mostly I would say don't even think about it. Just believe in you and believe that you can, and crack on and feel at home here, because, you know, I'm biased, of course. It is just the place in work where you are most likely to feel fulfilled, because of that combination of, you know, something to do that you'll be good at and that you get paid for, and makes a huge difference in the world. So that magical place.
Yeah, just do it. Like Karen said, think about it. I always go with the, you know, there's mountains behind mountains every single time. So just make sure you've got the right equipment, and, you know, you can tackle anything. And I think, you know, if anything, last year would have shown us, you know, homeschooling, running a business, trying to do everything else all together, you know, and I'm still here, and I absolutely love what we're doing, and that is what it's about. But, you know, look after yourself when you're doing it as well, and just you don't have to do it alone. Just find someone else, whoever is there, who'll be rooting for you. Because one thing that I was told by someone is that I keep on asking for permission, and it was like, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So that's my motto now. I just get on, do stuff, and, you know, see how it goes. Obviously there's limits to that, but yeah, just, you know, be kind to yourself. We can achieve a lot. So that self-confidence takes time, but, you know, embrace and celebrate all the achievements, and really be kind to yourself. Yeah.
Okay, fab. Thank you, Gabriela. Yes, definitely everyone should be being kind to themselves at the moment. We have nearly run out of time, and it was mentioned a second ago. We have been working on a few films at Expert Impact to showcase the sort of expertise that we have within the portfolio of about 70 mentors that we've got. As Karen mentioned, one of our experts is David Taylor, and he runs a company called The Branding that, surprise, surprise, specializes in helping companies with their branding. He has mentored around a dozen social enterprises through us, and when we asked him if he would make a film for us, he chose one of them we think he will know as his case study. So this is the bit where I cross my fingers and I hope that Lucy Wakeford in the background is ready to show our 2-minute film, after which I'll be back to hand over to Sarah. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed that little film. It's just really intended to give you an idea about the Human Learning Library. As I said, we've got around 70 people with lots of different skills within that, and ISC run the Human Learning Library in the Birmingham area. I hope you enjoyed the sessions today. I hope you got enough information about both growth and also, you know, mentoring, consultancy, and coaching. Lots of takeaways I wrote down, but problems are opportunities. Be an aggravator, cause some aggro. When you're selling, make people gravitate towards you. Figure out what is effort and high impact when you're thinking about growth. Grow out of the niche that you're in. Do what you're good at. Invest, not spend. And maybe some of your best ideas will come when you don't have any money. And also that it's sometimes worth spending money on a coach. So that is it. I want to just finish by thanking Gabriela and Karen for joining us on this session today, and for Sarah for asking us to join in. Hope you all have a great rest of the day. And Sarah, over to you.
Thanks very much. Well, what a fab session. We've had an internal WhatsApp going on between the team at ISE, and they're all saying how amazing you are, and they think, you know, the information that you've provided has been super helpful. So thank you. I'm sure that will reflect the other participants that are here on the conference today. So it's the end of the conference. It's time to say goodbye, but not completely goodbye, because we're going to do some mentoring. But before I hand over to yourselves to take advantage of the mentoring session and the new individuals who are going to be joining us because they didn't have time today to get involved in the conference, they're just going to join us for the last hour, I wanted to reflect on some of the messages that we've had today, and haven't there been loads? So it's been hard to pick, but I've picked some. I think the first one is take time to understand the market and the opportunities that fit your social enterprise. So we've heard of lots of different market opportunities. We've heard of procurement, we've heard of construction, supply chain, high streets, health and social care. We've heard of loads. The message from the last session was get operationally fit. Make sure that you can do what you need to do. You need to have the systems and so on in place. You need to have the finances and so on in place. You need to have the people in place, and so on and so forth. Another message was to understand your place. What opportunities are there in your place geographically, within your communities and so on, and make the links. Understand numbers, your impact, your finances, and use data for growth. But I think you really fundamentally need to be understanding what you're good at, and then link what you're good at to the opportunities that are out there. We also heard about mindset and the mindset of your team, and that we need to be trading. And although people are using grants, we need to be thinking about what we can sell, and what we can sell well that's of high quality. And we need to be spending money on marketing and selling our services. And then for me, the final message, which brings us back to the title of the conference, is that we're stronger together. So think about collaboration, consortium working, partnership working, and use the fact that there are other organisations that are out there in our sector to create new business opportunities. So it's time to say the thank yous. And these things don't happen without an awful lot of hard work. And firstly, I'd like to thank DigiLeaders for the platform, and Lucy for managing us all in this, you know, virtual environment that we're operating in. I'd like to thank particularly Sally Ryan, who's been working really hard in the background and has been available to me personally early morning and late at night to kind of problem solve and make sure that we've got everything running smoothly. And also particularly from my team, Nicole, who's worked in terms of sending out informations and links and so on and so forth. More broadly in the team, I'd like to thank Simon, Kirsty, Midhat, Lizzie, Ashley and Tim, without whom we couldn't do these kind of events. And actually the whole of Social Enterprise Drive is a complete and utter team effort. It's absolutely brilliant. And I'd also personally like to thank Karen Lynch, who was in the previous session, who kind of mentored me through running an online conference, because it felt very scary when we first decided that this was the only way we were going to get a conference this year. So thank you, everybody. You're all amazing. Thank you also for attending. We've absolutely loved today. We've learned so much. And I'd now like to say goodbye, but I hope to catch up with you in the mentoring. Thanks very much. Bye.